The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do want to thank the government for bringing this topic to the House as an emergency debate, because it absolutely 100% is an emergency. I want to, the Premier was, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but the Premier is out of the room while my colleague was speaking earlier, and so I want to reiterate a couple of things. Am I not allowed to say that? Okay, I'm sorry. But I do, I want to reiterate some of the things my colleague said. Because the Premier did say in his remarks that he wants to hear our thoughts. I can't believe I'm going to cry already on the first day. I find this topic extremely worrying and extremely important. I also attended the David Suzuki Stephen Lewis evening the other night and was moved by Julia Sampson and another young climate activist who was on the stage with them. And I have also been very moved by the work and the action of Greta Thunberg. She is an amazing person. And what she is telling us is that it is our responsibility as lawmakers to listen to the children and to act now before it is too late. And it is going to be too late. If we do not elect governments, and as elected governments already, if we do not do things in the next year or two to actively move towards a net zero carbon emissions by 2050, then we will have catastrophic climate change on this earth. We will have mass extinction of species, and we will have many, many people dying and suffering because of the catastrophic climate change. We know this. This is proven by many, many scientists. And so one of the things I heard the Premier say, and I am grateful for what we've done so far in Nova Scotia, but one of the things I heard the Premier say was, we will green our economy and we will grow our environment, but the two can't trump each other, is essentially what I heard you say, the Premier say. But those things do not need to trump each other. Those things need to work together in tandem. When we hear the term greening the economy, what I think of is we have the economy, we have industry here on the landscape, and greening it, we paint it with a green paintbrush. But what's underneath that, when the paint wears away, is still global industry. What we actually need to do is transform our economy. And transforming our economy will be the best economic growth that we've seen in many, many years in Nova Scotia. Green jobs that come from things like wind energy, solar energy, energy efficiency, energy retrofitting will be the jobs that are so important to our economy. And because those jobs exist, we will be meeting, or if we have important or radical enough targets, we will be able to meet those targets with those types of jobs. There's a quotation from Albert Einstein which says, "No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it." I have a poster to that effect in my office. And this is one of those problems that needs a new way of thinking. So we are in a climate emergency. The average global temperature for 2015-2019 is on track to be the warmest of any equivalent period on record. We've seen hurricanes, floods, droughts. They're having a major impact on our province and our socioeconomic development. And those impacts are only going to become more severe. Our world is going to become more unpredictable if we do not act now. We know that climate solutions need to be community-led and government-backed if they're to be successful. And right now, failure is not an option, as I already said. The federal government, this is astounding, the federal government estimates that not taking action on climate change could cost Canada $43 billion per year by 2050. And based on our population here in Nova Scotia, that would mean at least $1 billion a year. But that number could actually be higher because of our specific geography and the industries that make us more susceptible to the impacts of climate change. Right now, we have an unprecedented opportunity to transform our economy and to reduce our carbon output significantly. And we can do this in 3 ways. Reducing carbon output at the site of energy production and increasing the proportion of clean energy we rely on. Improving energy efficiency in our homes and workplaces through retrofitting buildings and using more efficient technologies, and investing in efficient transportation and infrastructure. Reducing carbon output at the site of energy production and increasing the proportion of clean energy we rely on is the backbone of the Environmental Goals and Sustainability Prosperity Act. When it comes to the proportion of our energy that comes from renewable sources, the EAC, Ecology Action Centre, submits 90% as the target that will help us meet our 2030 goal. But we have heard that the government has new goals in mind, but we still haven't heard what they are. We don't know what is being planned. We need clear targets, and we need stronger targets. It is no longer enough to say 30% below, I forget what the current government is. What is it, 30? Anyway, what we need is 50% below 1990 levels by 2030, and then we need 0 by 2050. That's what we need. That is what the climate scientists are saying. It is clear, and we need to adjust what we are doing now to meet those goals. So we need to know, is the government going to keep Nova Scotians in the dark for a few more years, or is the government going to show leadership and a plan, a clear path forward to meet those targets? Improving energy efficiency in our homes and workplaces is a crucial part of this work. We know that energy efficiency and deep energy retrofits is the cheapest and most effective way to achieve those carbon reductions. We cannot reduce our carbon output in a meaningful way without committing to a serious transformation in our efficiency standards. As I've mentioned, we could create thousands of new jobs by prioritizing making 100% of our social housing net zero energy ready by 2030. Net zero energy ready homes are up to 80% more efficient than new homes that are being currently built to current standards, code standards. While it's easier to reach these standards with new construction, of course, retrofits can also get us there. Imagine a province where everyone benefits from energy retrofits through lower heating and electricity costs. Net zero retrofits could save Nova Scotian families thousands of dollars every year. I'm hoping this is true because I'm about to insulate my entire home with the help of the Energy Efficiency Nova Scotia programs. But my quote is $9,000 to do it. But I'm really excited about the savings in my oil costs. I know. In 2016, Housing Nova Scotia, what's that? I know, well, it's on certain things, sir. In 2016, Housing Nova Scotia earned a Bright Business Innovation Award for a new passive house design that reduced the annual heating bill of the home to just $245 and the power bill to $585. On the coldest night of the year, the residents can be heated with the equivalent of 1.5 hair dryers. These deep energy retrofits could change the lives of many people in our province who are struggling to keep their heat and lights on. The amount of construction planning, and design work that is required to carry off this transformation could boost our economy in a way that we have not seen in decades. The Pan-Canadian Framework on Clean Growth and Climate Change, prepared by federal, provincial, and territorial ministers of the environment, called for net zero building codes across Canada by 2030. Nova Scotia is a signatory on this framework, but we haven't heard anything about where the government is on these changes. It is something that would cost us $0 to put these new codes in place. It would be wise for the government to make these changes as soon as possible to give construction firms time to adjust and build their competitive advantage in a new world. In order to make these retrofits happen, again, we need real leadership. Real leadership could establish targets to keep us on track with these retrofits. Real leadership could create a thriving new industry that employs people with a diverse range of skill sets. Real leadership could ensure that we are in a position to meet ambitious targets to prevent catastrophic climate change. Real leadership makes commitments and keeps them. Finally, the last piece of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions involves investing in our public infrastructure. We need to have a universally accessible system of public transportation that gets people from place to place in an efficient and comfortable manner. And we can do this. This is another opportunity for the creation of thousands of jobs and a new industry in our province. Rather than trying to run the infrastructure that connects us all in a shoestring budget, imagine what our province could do if we have a sustainable, reliable, accessible public transportation that everyone wanted to use. Not only would it keep our cars off the road for more time, but it would make life much easier for so many people. Whether it would mean getting to and from an appointment at the hospital more easily, or visiting family and friends on the other side of the province, or just going to and from work every day, affordable and accessible green public transportation is a huge part of addressing our greenhouse gas emissions. Mr. Speaker, earlier on, my colleagues on the other side of the House, and I do have deep respect for everyone in this House, but I want to say, my colleagues earlier gave themselves a standing ovation for the work that they're doing. No, it happened after the Premier spoke. I feel like this is not the time. This is not the time for standing ovations. This is not the time to congratulate ourselves in this House. The children and the youth who are going to be taking to the streets tomorrow, the people who are going to the UN and saying, "How dare you," to the lawmakers of the world, "How dare you hold our future in your hands and not do anything?" We can't stand up and give ourselves standing ovations right now. We need to do so much more. What we've done is fine. But real leadership would be humble and fast-acting so that this climate crisis can get under control. I implore everyone in this House, everyone, to stand with the youth of Nova Scotia and the youth of the world as they are outside the legislature tomorrow, who are demanding that we take action to stop catastrophic climate change. By the time that they get here tomorrow, many of the members of this legislature will be gone home. We will have gone for the day. We'll be done. But I will be here with my colleagues, standing with the young people for the future that they deserve. And I hope that everyone considers staying to greet them and to stand with them in solidarity. I hope that this government considers how to show more leadership on this file. Our children are asking for it and demanding it, and they deserve it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.